for more on the Bengals' close loss to the Chicago Bears. We bring in Bengals beat writer and digital sports columnist Richard Skinner.
Was it close? Was it close? Really?
On the scoreboard, it was close, I'll say. They had a chance at least at the end.
That's a good point.
We're trying to be positive here, all right, Skinny? This is a positive, family-friendly show.
All right, good deal.
Anyway, it was a loss, though, at the end of the day, and it didn't look great at times. Kind of a stark comparison from the team that won the first week, and this week didn't look like
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's such a feel-good feel about this team after week one in many ways of it's the Joe Burrow that we were hoping it was going to be. The offensive line held up pretty well. You ran the ball great. Defense, had really good moments last week before kind of wearing down and being compromised by the fourth down decision. And this week, the defense was great again. Unfortunately, the offense was an absolute dud. And this is against a team that just got torched by the Rams on Sunday night. They looked bad defensively, and instead the Bengals seemed like they played right in their hands.
Why you don't overreact to week one
is
because the Bears didn't look great defensively against the Rams, and then all of a sudden they look like the Bears team we thought they were going to be.
It's a week-to-week league. It really and truly is. I mean, that's why people gamble on this sport. It is so wild where you're like, oh, that team beat that team by such and such. It's going to be easy because they're only laying 3. Doesn't work that way. It's just a weird week-to-week league.
As hard as it is to go 16-0, it's almost impossible to go 0-16 at the same time.
That's correct.
We'll start with the offense because that's going to be the big discussion out of this game. They just couldn't get anything going in the first half. Neither team really did, to be fair. Only 10 points through the first 3 quarters, but 248 total for the Bengals, and it just didn't look like they were ever really in sync until maybe it was garbage time. They got a couple 2 late touchdowns.
Until they started taking some shots, and then obviously the short field because of the Logan Wilson interception. But here's the thing. What are you as an offense? Last week, you lined up with 2 tight ends a bunch, ran the football, ran it effectively. This week, Zach Taylor admitted they went 5, not always 5 wide, but went empty a bunch with spreading the field out because they were afraid of the Bears' defensive front and wanted to get out of Joe Burrow's hands quickly. That happened. The problem was you didn't move the football. You weren't effective. Do you stop worrying about them so much, Zach? Do you? What are you as a football team? You want to be 5 wide and spread? Do it. But the first week you showed that, man, this offense with Joe Burrow under center and handing it off and play action passing, that's what you're going to be most effective at, not going 5 wide and throwing 5-yard slants all the time. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I understand from what he was saying in his postgame that their game plan was because that Bears defensive front was so good, and maybe you have some questions, which at times the offensive line did struggle to contain that pass rush that they wanted to do.
So did Joe Mixon in pass blocking, but yes, you're right.
They wanted to go quicker. They didn't want to get their quarterback hit as much, but like you said, they didn't really dial up those deep balls. Jamar Chase was frustrated afterwards. I mean, what do you think this identity needs to be, and was this a wake-up call for Zach Taylor that, hey, we do need to go back to what was working in week 1?
Yeah, I mean, again, you be your identity. I get game plan specific stuff and game plan specific sets, but last year Joe Burrow likes that empty set. He did it in college. It's what they liked. That's what and it worked okay. I mean, Joe was okay. He had a nice year for a rookie, but it's just not. It doesn't work great in this league. It really doesn't, because if you're going to just run all quick game stuff, those people will come up and just sit on you all day long. If you want to go spread it out, great. You better sling it down the field about 10 to 15 times a game just to make sure that people aren't sitting on your routes. That's what Jamar Chase was frustrated with, and I think he's right. I think it's gutsy for the rookie to kind of call out his head coach here a little bit, but I think the kid's right.
What do you think their identity is to this point? Because I know they've been kind of rebuilding since Zach has been here.
Well, okay, here's the thing. Did you sign Joe Mixon to a big contract? The answer to that is yes, you did. He's your identity. It's not Joe Burrow. I hate to tell you, 28's your identity. And that's where, if you want to go back to your 12 personnel stuff and run the ball more often, and granted, you got to run it effectively too, I think they're so much better served. I think there's the fear for them right now is, oh my God, Joe's going to get hit. I got to find a way to not get him hit. Well, guess what, bro? He's getting hit anyway. He really is. So how about using that running game? Go and play action. Yes, he's going to have to turn his back to the defense on occasion. And yes, he's going to get belted for an 8-yard loss. But it's also going to give him a lot better passing lanes in those intermediate zones to hit, which I think he's really good at. And you don't give him an opportunity to throw him 5-yard slants all day.
Do you think the concern with the offensive line that they seem to have, do you think it's founded or do you think it's over precaution?
No, I think it is founded, but if you're able to run the ball effectively, it is going to slow down any pass rush. I think play action slows down pass rush. Didn't really see the screen game today. Not going to run a bunch of screens unless it's a bubble screen out of an empty set. Again, I just want to know what is your, and I'm going to ask him tomorrow, what is your offensive identity? Tell me what it is. and then play to that strength. Stop trying to mess around with game plan specific stuff. This looked just like the Baltimore game last year, where Baltimore said, you guys play offense in a phone booth, we're going to blitz this kid, and he's not going to be able to get rid of it because we're going to take away his hot read, and he's going to be a mess. And he was, and he got belted around, and they got clobbered, and it was embarrassing. That's what the first 3 quarters plus look like. Of this guy has nowhere to throw the ball because there's nobody open winning one-on-one. Some of that, too, is on receivers winning one-on-ones. But if corners aren't worried about you running by them, well, then they're just going to squat and stop you.
Joe Burrow today didn't have his best game by far. 3 interceptions on 3
weird.
straight passes.
That was weird.
He got sacked a bunch of times. Again, like the whole offense, as we said, kind of looked out of sync. Reason for concern with Burrow, or was this just kind of a bad game? And technically, if you go by how many games he's played, he's still really in his rookie season.
Yeah, it was a bad sequence. The throw that Roquan Smith intercepted was just, I'm going to tip my cap to him for making the play. Joe didn't see him, and he got it out of his hand late. He probably should have thrown that one earlier. The last one, the Ogletree one, he hit the ball. That's kind of fluky. The one in between was one and that's with the cornerback. He's got T. Higgins running up the side, running a stop route. Well, the corner isn't in trail technique because he's not worried about him going up the sideline. He's still peeking in the backfield. Joe thinks he's going to be able to throw the stop route. Instead, the corner peeking in the backfield sees it, jumps it, interception. It was a weird 3-play sequence. I mean, he had gone 190. Think about that. He'd gone 199 straight passes without throwing a pick, and 3 straight passes, especially the third one, which was just a fluke.
Defensively, for the second straight week, they played pretty well,
yeah.
and this was, I know everyone's going to say, well, the Bears, Andy Dalton gets hurt, Justin Fields in his first meaningful action as a rookie quarterback. You know what? Give them credit. They were able to get the stops when they needed to.
Yeah, and this is the second straight week against a good running game and a good running back that they pretty much stoned him. David Montgomery had 20 for 61, and I'm pretty sure Dalvin Cook, I think those exact numbers Dalvin Cook had last week, 20 for 61. That's really good. If you look at their rushing yardage, Dalton had a couple of good scrambles before he went out, and Fields had that huge 10-yard scramble late in the game to get a first down, so he got some scramble yardage. But as far as just pure running game, I'm really starting to like what this defense is capable of doing. You go back to last week, I really am curious how that game would have ended up if they don't go for it on the 4th and inches on their own 30, because the defense was playing so well. It was 21-7 at that point, and then kind of got haywire from that point forward. So for me, this defense, even the touchdown drive, the first touchdown drive was aided by that Eli Apple bad, not very good pass interference penalty. I mean, I have no idea why he had to shove the receiver there, but that was a 32-yard penalty of that 75-yard drive. So that's the one thing I'm kind of hanging my hat on right now is I think you're going to get consistent level of play from that defense. And, oh, by the way, hopefully this week you get Trey Waynes back at corner to replace Eli Apple.
2 things for the defense stood out to me. First of all, multiple sacks, something they didn't do last year. They got 3 sacks this year against a mobile quarterback in Justin Fields, who played a lot, which was good. And then also Allen Robinson, who's one of the best receivers in the NFL. I thought going into this, I said, oh boy, Eli Apple, they're going to pick him apart. 2 catches, 24 yards, that early touchdown. He didn't kill them, which was a welcome sign for this defensive secondary.
No, and I do think some of it is, to be fair, is Justin Fields. I think you can see why they weren't quite ready to have him start from day one. Again, that's not a knock on what he might become, but you could see, I mean, that interception he threw to Logan Wilson, you can't do. A guy who's played in the league for a long time ain't making that throw and ain't making that decision. So I think some of that was that related, but I think you're right. I mean, the Vikings today put up a bunch of points on the Cardinals. That's a pretty good offense, and they had them shut down for 2 quarters plus 11 minutes before they went for that 4th down play. So yeah, that's the thing for me. If you want to look at something and go, all right, I got question marks on what they're doing on offense, but I like this defense.
A lot of people, especially one of our photographers, Ryan Heater, back in the edit bay as soon as I walked into work, started loudly disagreeing with the head coach, Zach Taylor. A lot of people on social media not too happy with Zach Taylor. I know you're probably not too happy with Zach Taylor. How much pressure is on him right now, and has that hot seat begun to warm up only 2 weeks into the season?
The win bought him a little time for sure. I mean, you had to win that opener. Winning on the road is hard, although it's been really hard for him. He's 1-15-1 now on the road. He's now 0-20 when trailing after 3 quarters, so it's not like they've had some 4th quarter magic. I mean, the numbers are not very good in his corner. But listen, you're probably not going to Pittsburgh and win anyway. You can beat Jacksonville on that Thursday night. I think if you were a reasonable person, I try to be reasonable, even though I don't like what they did today. I think 2-2 after 4 games is kind of where you had it, hoping for 3-1 and hoping against going 1-3, which would have been a little bit of a disaster. But for me, And I'm not here to tell you they can't go to Pittsburgh and win because I don't think they're very good. I thought I picked them in my column in the preseason to be a 7-10 team like the Bengals, and they didn't look very good today against the Raiders. So you can go there and steal a win. That kind of softens this. You then get Jacksonville, and you should beat them in 3-1. But suddenly, if it's 1-3 after that, and you lose to Jacksonville, which is they are just awful. They're so awful to the point I can't imagine Urban Meyer lasts this whole season. Then that seat gets really, really hot. Today, no, I know the anger, I get it, but not today.